here's your entry EV car that you really need to keep in mind. We all know France for the Eiffel Tower, croissants, baguettes, and wine, but what about cars? Germany had Mercedes, England had Jaguar, USA had Cadillac, whereas France, well, they had Citroen since 1990. Right now, you might know Tesla as the automotive industry disruptor for their EV cars, but in many ways, Citroen was the same and continues to be the same. While these might now be mainstream features, their SM introduced self-centering steering and rain-sensing wipers leagues ahead of everyone else. The Traction Avant was the first mass-produced car. The DS used a revolutionary hydropneumatic shock absorber, and the CX had headlights that turned with the steering wheel. They were also way ahead of time in lowering drag coefficiency, realizing slippery cars meant faster and less thirsty cars, just like the EVs we see now. In fact, did you know Citroen, they loved a Maserati engine so much for their SM model, they actually bought Maserati for a couple of years. They're even in motorsport and also have numerous world championships in rally. As of recent times though, it is a part of the wider Stellantis automotive group alongside other household brands like Jeep, Peugeot, Fiat, Maserati, and Alfa Romeo. And with me today, I have the all-new Citroen EC3 Shine. And while it's manufactured in India, it's a SUV-styled hatchback that gives about 320 kilometers of range. Realistically, I would say it's about 230 to 50 though, depending on your driving style. That's mated to a 42.5 kilowatt motor and has a 29.2 kilowatt hour high energy density lithium ion battery. What's cool about this is no matter how much you DC charge this battery, unlike in other polymer ions of lithium, the longevity of this won't go down. The battery health won't get affected. Anyway, under the hood, this motor produces 143 Newton meters of torque, which means 0 to 60 in the city happens in under 7 seconds, and you have a top speed of just over 100 kilometers per an hour. Also, it's a practical little car with a boot space of 315 liters and a ground clearance of 170 mm at its lowest point. And unlike the other lower trim levels of the EC3, the Shine now gets new wheels, more features, and a reversing camera. But anyway, without further ado, let me hop onto the driver's seat and see what this car is all about. I am so impressed by this car, like so impressed. It's so finely tuned, this car, when it comes to driving. The accelerator pedal straight off the bat, I know it's a tiny little motor compared to other cars, but oh my god, you can feather foot this to the extreme. That's how sensitive the accelerator pedal is, as well as the brake. It's so nice the way this brake is calibrated. I don't know what that guy was doing. Again, you might be thinking it's a less than 50 kilowatt motor and it might not provide enough torque as compared to bigger, more powerful EVs, but it does the job pretty well. You put your foot down, it'll close gaps, it'll catch up to the vehicle in front, it'll allow for zippy quick overtakes in city traffic, and as long as you're not in eco mode on a steep uphill, it just about pulls it. There is no auto hold on this car, so you will have to get used to using a handbrake, but again, it's an automatic car, so you really don't need to worry about all of that. And as for the brakes, it's disc brakes at the front and drum brakes at the back, which in paper you might think is not enough, but for a car of this capability, it more than is enough, in complements with the regenerative braking. Speaking of regen on this car, it's one of the least intrusive regenerative brakings. There's no on and off for the regen, but it's ever so subtle on this car. it won't really slow you down a lot. You will have to use the brake pedal. Unlike other cars, you can't really go into the menu and also change the extremity of regen. Do you want a very strong feel, a very light feel? It's just one set on, no hassle, you just forget about it. What I'm really also loving about this car, more than these fine-tuned accelerator and brake pedal, is the ride handling. I never imagined that Citroen would be producing shocks. It's a McPherson strut at the front and a rear twist beam at the back, coil springs basically, and it's so smooth. Like, you almost just levitate over these speed bumps and like potholes and everything, and complementing that with the amount of ground clearance this car has, like, I'm just driving it without a care in the world of like how the road is, unlike in any other EV, honestly. I also want to point out, because I'm talking about the handling, you are sat perfectly ergonomically in this car. It's very upright. When you have the seat in the highest position like I do, you can exactly see where the front ends of your bumper are, and because it's a small SUV styled hatchback, you can, from your mirrors on either side, see exactly where the back ends are. So if you're a beginner driver, if you're not the most confident, if you want good maneuverability in the city, this is definitely it. As for the looks on this car, it's a smaller EC5 for better city maneuverability. You can't really tell this is an EV, it really blends well, probably because this car shares a platform with its gasoline counterpart, the C3. It comes in three neutral colors: platinum gray, polar white, and steel gray. As for the design of this car, at the front you have the two prominent Citroen arrows, which are helical or chevron gears. Fun fact about this is the founder of this car, when he was 22, Andrzej Citroen, when he was in Poland, discovered this, bought the patent, and started designing it. This logo is also merged with the DRLs on the side. And at the front, you do have a sort of air intake, which the car doesn't need because it's an EV, but this is because there are radiators inside for the AC intake. The Shine comes with fog lamps as standard at the front, and you have a mix of LED and halogen for your DRLs, your side lights, and your headlights. And now coming to the side, as for charging on the car, because this is where your charging port is, this car accepts both AC and DC charging. It's in fact a CCS Type 2 plug-in, and Citroen Nepal provide a 3.3 kilowatt slow granny charger that can plug into your 15 amp home plug, but that'll take about 10.5 hours as claimed by the company. Again, conditions applied as usual. It can also, however, DC fast charge. The company claims that the car can charge up to 35 kilowatts and claims a time of about just under an hour for a 10 to like 90% charge. And as for the tire profile on this, it's 195, 65, R15. So basically what that means is this rim is 15. This 65 means the tire height, basically. I think personally, the taller, bigger this number is, the more cushioning this has, because besides the suspension coil there, this also takes a bit of the dampening when it comes to uneven roads. And then you have this 195, which is basically the width of your tire. What's unique to the Shine is these 15-inch diamond cut alloys. They're also dual tone. You have a metallic finishing outside and a black on the inside. Coming up, you have a E badging on the side, bit of dual tone paint on the mirrors. Again, unique to the Shine is these electronically adjustable mirrors. It's manual on the lower variants. And then you have a pretty tall roof rail and antenna at the front of the car. It's a very unibody sort of continuous design throughout the car. Some plastic arches over the mudguards. And coming to the back, it's a bit of a stocky sort of rear light that just wraps around the car. You have a Citroen tag here on the side. And at the back is where most of the badging is. Your Citroen badge and logo, your model. And then down here, again, unique to the Shine variant is your rear camera. A new skid plate, which was also at the front if you noticed. They've also added a rear wiper and a defogger, a headlamp, a top mount stoplight, and you have a nozzle here to clean it out at the back. All right, as for boot on this car, it's a very convenient 315 liters on availability. It's also a very deep sort of boot space. This is your portable charger, and underneath this floor bed actually you have an actual spare tire. It is not the exact same size. This is a 185/65 versus the tires on the car are 195/65s, but definitely a pro that you do have an EV with a spare tire, since most cars don't come with that these days. You have a bit of a parcel tray at the back, and you can also fold the rear seat. It's not the traditional 60:40 ratio that we're all used to, but again, this is a bit of cost cutting that Citroen have done to further improve convenience and practicality of the car. The interior feels very resourceful on this car. There are 2 window buttons, 1 touch at the front to go down, but you need to pull it for it to come up. And then you have an AC vent here, and you have your mirror adjustments, electronic mirror adjustments, which are unique to the Shine here. You have leather wrapped steering wheel, which is also unique to this trim. And then the upholstery fabric seatings are quite comfy. They're very upright. There's no head height adjustment, but they do the job pretty well. But the main attraction of this interior is this 10-inch center console. It's got both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and it's a very receptive sort of touchscreen. There are 4 speakers on this car, which I am really a fan of. Like, I did not expect the bass and trebles to get this high in. And what I really liked about this car is there's a lot of tactile knobs and buttons, like AC vents here, your HVAC controls here, all just knobs. And then onto the center console area, you have your handbrake. Down here, you have your gear selector, which is like a switch in the middle. And then you have an eco mode dedicated button down here. You have 2 cup holders here too that fit decently sized water bottles, and a storage cubby down here. You can probably fit your phone or wallet. Also a tray in the middle, pretty conveniently located. As for the driving seat, you have your horn in the middle, and then you have no buttons on the left hand side, but the right hand side are all your media controls, to like pick up the phone, to like change volume, to turn on the microphone. You have 2 stalks given in this car, one on the left and then one on the right. The right are for your indicators. You can tap it for like a 3 signal lane change, or you can like turn it on for like a dedicated left turn. You also have your headlight controls here. And on the left stalk, you have your rear wiper control here on the outside, and then your front wiper controls here, depending on how fast or slow you want it. And coming onto the ceiling, you have your center lights here. You have a visor here. A very interesting fact is the passenger visor actually has a mirror at the front, but the driver's does not. And then you have a rear view mirror, which is stuck right on the windshield. And finally, as for the driver adjustability, it's all manually adjustment. Your steering wheel can be adjusted for height, basically. And then you have a manual tab to pull down here for the height. And then you can also with a lever on the right hand side. Basically adjust the height of the seat down and up, as well as your incline. The dashboard on this car has a bit of a shelf in the middle, and most of it is hard plastics. Unfortunately, again, a bit of cost cutting Citroen may have done to keep their budget on the lower side for this car. It's a bit of a dual tone, glittery, glossy sort of polka dot thing going on with a shelf at the bottom in the middle to like hold your items. You have your airbags here. And as for the rear seat on this car, it's quite tall, upright car, so you do have a good, decent amount of legroom at the back. This is a shared platform, as I keep on mentioning, with the petrol version, but for some reason, good engineering, there's like almost a flat floor bed, so even if you're in the middle, there isn't too much of a worry. You have decent amount of under thigh support, though the seat is on the shorter side. Knee room is good, footwell room is good, shoulder room is good windows at the back. You have again, pretty decently large size bottle holders on each doors, and your mirror controls are actually down here. One touch at the back too, which is pretty cool. But again, to pull it up, you need to keep on pulling it. A bottle holder here, and Citroen have given not one, but two USB-A ports at the back. There is a bit of a cell phone storage holder on the passenger side, but nothing here. You have grab handles on each 4 doors. And as for space on the back, while there are like 3 pairs of seat belts on the back, I am confident that 2 people will comfortably fit, 2 adults will comfortably fit at the back, and if you're okay with squeezing in a third, 3 will also do just as fine. Let me start by prefacing everything saying the C in Citroen, at least for me personally, is for comfort and convenience. I am mind blown by just how refined and like comfortable this car is. It's literally feeling like the drivability of this car belongs to not this price segment, not this hatchback SUV segment, not this entry segment, but almost a tier or 2 higher. I am just mind blown by that. And I think that refinement really boils down to this whole history that I was blabbering about at the beginning of this video. Yeah, Citroen also have a century worth of history and pedigree in racing, in like all the unique, quirky things they came out with, and a century later today with this EV, I feel that they've really done a good job in like fine-tuning all those itty-gritty bits here and there and producing a very lovable, drivable sort of city EV car. I do understand, and I've pointed out in this video, there are a lot of things, cost cuttings that Citroen have done to like keep it under budget. For example, something I dearly miss is that there's no auto hold. Most EV cars just have it these days. And while this car does have a reversing camera, it's not a dynamic reversing camera, it's just a decent quality reversing camera. They could have upped the camera, but I can't believe I'm saying this, but what it lacks, it quickly makes up in drivability. The AC on this car, it's such a tiny car. I never expect the AC to be this robust and good. Like, it's a good 25, 26 degree overcast day today. And I am not even dialing the AC down to the lowest. I've placed it in like somewhere in the middle. Why? Because it's so damn cold already. You don't need it. I don't know how they did it. And for some reason, the AC doesn't really reflect too much of a change in the range estimate on this car. Most EVs, it's spontaneous, the amount of AC used, but here it's not. I also found the odometer, the range estimation, the guessometer, as most cars, EVs have based on your driving style, to be pretty damn accurate. I do want to point out though, with the AC, there's some like smell that seeps in. I mean, cabin insulation, like audio-wise, is great. Like, I don't have any reservations on that. I do have my air circulation on, just inside, instead of bringing in air from the outside, but I don't know. I could just be like nitpicking here with my sensitive nose. You can definitely feel that the maximum turning angle on this car is far greater than other EVs out there in the market, or just heck, other cars out there in the market. Let's just try it and let me know down in the comments if you felt that too. And as a result, it's got a shockingly small minimum turning radius of just 4.98 meters. That's like almost just half the road. And that boils it down to this question I've always been asking about cars. How much car is too much car in the 21st century? Especially when you have all these like Chinese EVs. Also Korean EVs with like a whole lot of features. A lot of like extra features. Like, where do you draw the line between it's an actually usable, convenient feature versus it's just another gimmick? You know what I mean? I've been asking this question at the end of every car review, if you've been watching. Do I really need it? Or is it just there to like tick another checkbox on the brochure list? And I, for one, personally feel that this car is my benchmark in terms of, I don't need everything in the car, but it has just enough amount of features that it is there and it does not feel lacking in any way. Well, anyway, you tell me what you thought about this car. Do you think it's good enough? Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one.